Howdy, everyone. There we go. We're going to go ahead and get started. Please, everyone, grab your seats. All righty, good folks. It is so good to see every one of you in this room. Every single one of you in this room. Good morning. My name is John Andrew Williams III, Assistant Professor in Multicultural and Urban Ed. I am the Carter-Larke Lecture Chair. Welcome to the 2023 Carter-Larke Black History and Education Lecture. This event was established in 2017 to honor and continue the legacies of Dr. Norvella Carter and Dr. Patricia Larke upon their retirement as faculty members in the Department of Teaching, Learning, and Culture in the School of Education and Human Development. This lecture is the culminating event for Black history in the School of Education and Human Development. These two phenomenal African-American women utilize education, teaching, and research to transform the lives of children, teachers, and communities here in the Brazos Valley, across Texas, and of course, across the world. I'm a firm believer that thanks should always be given to those who've sacrificed and have paved the way for us. So I have a couple of thanks to get things started, because we don't want to forget these thank yous. First of all, would you all please give a huge thank you, first to Dr. Larke and Dr. Carter, because they are the reason why we are here. You all can do better than that. Secondly, I'd like to give a huge thank you to the Carter-Larke Committee. If you are part of this committee, please stand and be recognized at this time. They do the tireless effort of putting this together. Tireless. Little backstory. When I came to them about this idea of switching things up, they didn't look at me crazy. It was like, we're just gonna get this done. That's how much of a phenomenal group it is. And I have to say that most of our meetings, while they're supposed to last an hour, we are done within 30 minutes. They're just that excellent. Lastly, I want to give a huge thank you out to all the graduate students, because this work that is done, we consider it service, and often in academia, we don't pay too much service. But to put this amount of service on, while some of them are looking for jobs, some of them are turning in papers, make sure you turn your papers in on time. But they're living their lives. And they're taking time out of their day to come actually provide service to us. So all the graduate students who have supported this event, please stand to be recognized. To help us set us out on our path today, we will hear opening remarks from Dr. Claire Katz, who is the Interim Department Head of Teaching, Learning, and Culture, followed by Dr. John Singer, who is the Associate Dean in the Office of Inclusive Excellence. Please welcome to the stage, Dr. Claire Katz.
Thank you, John. So, distinguished colleagues, friends, and guests, it is my privilege to welcome you to the 2023 Carter-Larke Black History and Education Program. The theme, Black Excellence, Yesterday, Today, and Forever, could not be timelier, nor could it be more fitting for an event named for Norvella Carter and Patricia Larke. Drs. Larke and Carter gave us the legacy of the fields of multicultural education and urban education housed in the Department of Teaching, Learning, and Culture here at Texas A&M. The inequities each experienced personally or came to understand through their research led to the founding of these fields here. In Shoulders to Stand On, an inspiring story that was published 2 years ago on the A&M Foundation website, Dr. Larke shared the following, quote, "When you hear stories about what's going on in schools, you have to do the work," unquote. In Judaism, when discussing our obligation to repair the world, the rabbis tell us, it is not your responsibility to finish the work of repairing the world, but nor are you free to abstain from that work. Through their significant legacy, Doctors Carter and Larke have provided us with the tools we need to do this work. And yes, there is still much work to be done. We have been given strong shoulders to stand on. It is our turn to continue this work so that others may stand on our shoulders. Through the power of education, the Carter-Larke Lecture Series is but one way that we honor this legacy of these inspiring teacher scholars. Before turning the program back to my colleagues, let me take a moment to offer my brief thanks to the many individuals, groups, and companies who have offered their support so that we could put this program on. The School of Education and Human Development, and of course, our Dean, Dr. DeMiranda, Office of Inclusive Excellence, Dr. Singer, Department of Teaching, Learning, and Culture, and of course, all the staff in particular who do such hard work there. University Planning and Special Events, CC Creations, Copy Corner, Lamar and Nikki's for the food, the Urban Education Collaborative at UNC Charlotte, Prairie View A&M University Awards, and more. Senator Gaines's family, Voices of Praise, Kemp Carver Elementary School Choir, Pastor Ogletree, and our speakers, Ayana Allen Handy, Fred Bonner, Chance Lewis, and Tyrone Tanner. Finally, let me extend a special thank you to the Carter-Larke Committee, John Williams III, who's the chair of the committee, and Kamala Williams, chair of the Carter-Larke Lecture Series Endowment. And of course, to Doctors Norvella Carter and Patricia Larke, whose work and impact inspired this annual event. Thank you and enjoy the program today.
Good afternoon, I think, or morning. Here we go. All right, on behalf of the Office of Inclusive Excellence in the School of Education and Human Development, I want to welcome and thank each of you for coming out to the annual Carter-Larke Lecture event. And reflecting on the theme of this year's event, celebrating Black excellence yesterday, today, and forever, I am reminded of the work of the great Black scholar and human rights activist, Dr. W.B. Du Bois, who nearly 100 years ago in 1924, authored the path-breaking book, The Gift of Black Folk, wherein he discussed the myriad and extraordinary contributions, be it the sciences, the arts, sport, entertainment, etc., of Black people to the growth and the development of this country. As we celebrate Black excellence today, I want to start by acknowledging our namesakes of this event, Doctors Norvella Carter and Doctors Patricia Larke. Thank the both of you for your many contributions to the School of Education and Human Development down through the years. You've inspired many and you continue to do great things even in retirement. It is also important to acknowledge and thank Dr. Marlon James. Is Marlon here? I didn't see him, but is Marlon here yet? Okay. But Dr. Marlon James, a former faculty member and doctoral student here in the school who saw and experienced the impact of these two Black women and decided to establish this event to honor them and keep their legacies alive. Congrats, Dr. James, on the well-deserved leadership award you are receiving today. And congrats to the other award recipients, Drs. Jamilia Blake and the family of the late great Senator Matthew Gaines. Finally, I want to welcome our panelists, Dr. Ayana Allen Handy, Dr. Tyrone Tanner, Dr. Fred Bonner, and Dr. Chance Lewis, and thank them for being here with us today. And just as a note, Drs. Bonner and Lewis and I came in together in 2006 in that large cohort of faculty who were hired under Dr. Gates, Robert Gates at the time. And so we've been in this together for a long time, so it's good to see y'all here. In closing, I want to give a special shout out to Dr. John Williams for taking the baton from Dr. James and continuing to elevate and move this signature event of Black History Month in the school forward. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to welcome the internationally known, this is a treasure, folks, the Voices of Praise, who will sing the Black National Anthem. If able, would you please stand?
Lift every voice and sing to the glory. Bring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise. The sneezing skies, let it resound loud as the rolling seas. Sing a song full of the faith that the darkness has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought. They sing the rising song. A new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat and not our weary feet, come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our God, true to our God, true to our native land.
Once again, thank you, Voices of Christ. At this time, please welcome to the stage the newly mint Pastor Ogletree, who will bless the food for us.
Father in heaven, we love you. God, we thank you for this day that you provided. We thank you for placing us in this environment where we can be inspired, informed, and empowered to do even greater things. Now, bless this food. Maybe it's something that nourishes our body and adds to the fellowship and the joy of this day. May it continue to inspire us to make your name even greater and to do even greater things in innovation and education for this great institution. Bless this food. May nourish our bodies in Jesus' name. Amen.
All righty. Apparently I heard there's some good food outside. I know people are hungry, so I'm kind of standing in between you all eating things of that nature. So at this time, we're going to start the luncheon. We're going to open it up for our two major VIP tables, table 1 and table 2 right here, which is Dr. Carter, Dr. Larke, as they will proceed first. We'll have our graduate students kind of call tables one by one, so that way we can do this thing called traffic flow. And if you know anything about College Station, you know we got traffic, and we need to do a better job with that. So we will proceed with the luncheon, and then we will resume in a little bit once everybody kind of gets together with the second portion of our event. Thank you. All righty, good people. Howdy. Oh, you all can. I know some of you all got food in your mouth, so we're gonna do this again because the food is excellently delicious. Howdy, everyone. There we go. We are actually going to get started with the second half of our program. We have individuals joining us online. So good morning / good afternoon to those individuals who are joining us online. We would like to welcome you to this Carter-Larke Black History Education event. This event is a culminating event for the Department of Teaching, Learning, and Culture in the School of Education, Human Development. As we honor two trailblazing women, Dr. Norvella Carter, Dr. Patricia Larke, we do so in an effort to extend the great legacy they started. At this time, please welcome to the stage the chair of the Carter-Larke Lecture Series Endowment Committee, who will talk more about how you can help to sustain this legacy. Please welcome to stage Dr. Kamala Williams.
Howdy. The work that Dr. Carter and Dr. Larke started must be solidified in history. Their mission must continue. This will not just happen. It will require financial contributions from people like you. A campaign is underway to endow the Carter-Larke Lecture Series for Black History in Education, the first of its kind for the School of Education and Human Development. This means for years to come, the work Dr. Carter and Larke began will continue and have a foothold in the school. The endowment will allow the college, school, well, actually the whole university, to extend the Carter and Larke Lecture Series to quarterly lectures highlighting a wide range of topics related to achieving excellence in education through equity, research, teaching, and community engagement. The conversations, discussions, and dissemination of research in multicultural education and urban education, they began in Texas and spread all over the world, will carry on and continue to touch the lives of many. The last few years has given us reason to seek avenues through which we could contribute to improving the human condition. This is your opportunity to keep that dream alive. Now more than ever, the voices of these pioneering women and what they stood for needs to be heard. I encourage you to donate to the campaign, as well as get involved by hosting a campaign event and contacting others as potential donors. Don't miss this opportunity to demonstrate your appreciation for the work of Drs. Carter and Larke, or to be part of this history-making event. Just imagine an endowment of a lecture series with the namesakes of two Black women scholars at Texas A&M University. As significant as making history is, it pales in comparison to the importance of continuing the work of Dr. Carter and Dr. Larke. Please look on the back of your programs. There's a QRC code. Scan it and don't wait, donate today. Thank you very much. And thank you, Dr. Carter and Dr. Larke, for the work that you've done.
All righty, we have the pleasure to welcome back each and every year this special children's choir. Please welcome to the stage, actually the stage to the side, Lori Banks, who is the director for the Kemp Carter Elementary School Choir. Please give them a round of applause.
We come together, we all bleed the same. So tell me why we're divided. If we're gonna fight, let's fight for each other. If we're gonna shout, let's all be the cry. We all bleed the same. So let's get united, let's get united.
Once again, thank you, Kim Carver Elementary. Thank you, Lori Banks. Every year you all are phenomenal and you grace us with your presence, and we are very thankful that you are here. Give them a round of applause. We now transition to the award portion of the event. Please welcome to the stage to present our first award, Dr. John Singer.
All right, it is good afternoon this time. I'm gonna be real brief. So Dr. Jamilia Blake and I, we came to Texas A&M around the same time. As I said before, I came in 2006 and she came a year later in 2007 in that fall. And interestingly enough, I believe it was actually, we first met at an AAPO event where Dr. Fred Bonner was given the first Friday lecture. And I happened to be sitting next to Dr. Blake and Dr. Tara Van Zant Chambers. Many of you all in this room know Dr. Tara. And I was giving Dr. Blake a hard time because she and Dr. Chambers were chatting it up. But I knew at that moment that Dr. Blake was a character in a good way and somebody that I would come to be connected with going forward. And so from our playful banter about the merits of qualitative and quantitative research in the many fields of education and human development that faculty do here in the school, to our other serious conversations around the state of higher education, among other things, I've appreciated knowing Dr. Blake and greatly respect and admire her as a scholar and for the great work that she's done. So before bringing her up to receive her award, let me just very briefly read this short bio about Dr. Blake. So Dr. Jamilia Blake is an award-winning and published licensed psychologist. She is a professor and the director for the Center of Health Equity and Evaluation Research at Texas A&M University. Her work focuses on educational and mental health disparities facing Black girls. Dr. Blake is a fellow of the American Psychological Association. She has authored more than 60 publications focusing on child and adolescent youth. Dr. Blake is the lead researcher who conceptualized the concept of adultification bias featured in the Girlhood Interrupted, the Erasure of Black Girls' Childhood Report. She is also lead author for the follow-up work, Listening to Black Women and Girls, Lived Experiences of Adultification Bias Report. Please welcome Dr. Jamilia Blake to the stage to receive this award.
So I'm going to be brief, which is hard for me. I just want to say thank you so much for this award. It means so much to me. Pat and Norvella looked up to you when I first started, and just having two Black full professors that were women to kind of guide and give you that nod when you knew you were doing something well, and then that side when you might have overstepped. So internally grateful to have something that's a symbol of all the work that you've done and the foundation that you laid, right? So as they say, you walked so I could run. So I would not have been successful here at Texas A&M and getting to be full without the two of you. So I'm internally grateful. Thank you for the committee for recognizing my work. And I am a character. You got to keep them on their toes. You got to keep them on their toes. Take care.
Once again, thank you, Dr. Blake. Dr. Blake was one of the first individuals that I visited on campus. We had a nice little, what you would call culture responsive mentoring. at the coffee shop, just to kind of let me know the ins and outs of what I need to do as a assistant professor. So internally grateful. The next individual to present our next award is CJ Harmon. Please give him a round of applause. Not because he's just giving out an award today. I need you all to understand this is his last time he will be here as a graduate student. So you all need to throw it up for him. Also, his wife is in the room. She'll be graduating as well. This is her last time as well. So as we see his legacy grow, we have to celebrate excellence. So
thank you, Dr. Williams. I have waited a long time for this. I'm really happy to be here. Let me get started because I can talk for a while. Marlon C. James is an associate professor in sociology and faculty fellow for the student success in the Marvin D. and June Brailsford College of Arts and Sciences at Prairie View A&M University. In his time here at Texas A&M University, Dr. James served as the executive director of the Center for Urban School Partnerships and the program chair for urban education. If you didn't know, I think Dr. Singer mentioned earlier, Dr. James was the Carter-Larke Black History and Education Lecture Planning Committee chair every year, except this one. Dr. James took the lead, right? Okay. Yes. Dr. James took the lead from the beginning and effectively led each year he was at the helm. For over 2 decades, Dr. James has provided training and curriculum for promoting systemic equity in education and instructional equity in classrooms. His research is read around the globe and focuses on promoting optimal development among young Black men in urban schools, instructional reform, and ending the impacts of racism in public schools and higher education institutions. I've told you before, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I've watched Dr. James over the years work extremely hard. Many do not see his work behind the scenes, but if you know Dr. James, he doesn't do it for the awards or for the recognition. But we're gonna give you some flowers today, Dr. James. For me, Dr. James has been a consistent source of support, provided useful feedback, and offered just that real, honest talk that graduate students need sometimes. As I move through Texas A&M University, much of the success I've experienced is largely due to his direct training, the opportunities he's given me and connected me to, the exposure, and the overall high quality mentorship. It has been an enriching journey because of his meaningful engagement with me. The good doctor has been and continues to be a strong presence in my development. I will always be grateful for his teaching, friendship, and the example of Black excellence he continues to set. I'm biased because he is my dissertation chair, so I don't want any smoke today, Dr. James. But I have nothing but wonderful things to say about my advisor. He is an amazingly talented individual and a fierce educator committed to student success. Dr. James, I'm happy for you and your beautiful family, and I appreciate you. I appreciate your commitment to your family, and I appreciate your commitment to the work. I know y'all are elated like I am to see him receive this award because he deserves it. All the way, born and raised on the south side of Chicago, please show your love for the one and only good brother, Dr. Marlon C. James.
Howdy. Romans 8:28, all things work together for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. I didn't know what my purpose was until I met Dr. Carter and Dr. Larke. And the Lord has given me ideas almost every second of the day. And this particular idea, it just came to me. When they announced their retirements, it was this hole in my soul, and I think many of our students and colleagues' soul, but the idea came just to celebrate them. And I cannot express the level of gratitude that I have for each of them, the level of love that I have for each of them, beyond my mother, beyond the person who gave birth to me. These women have been guides, they have been mentors, They have been encouragers, correctors, and educators to me. And I am not, this award is not in celebration of me. It's a reflection of what they poured into me. And let me demonstrate this. All those individuals who were recruited to Texas A&M University by Dr. Carter and Dr. Larke, please stand. All of their graduates, please stand. All of those who've taken a course from them, please stand. All of those who collaborate with them on research, please stand. Now, all of those individuals who are connected to the programs that they founded, multicultural and urban, please stand. That is, you've taken a course, you've graduated from that program area, you've published in that area. This is just, now look around. And we could keep going on. Like if we ask the question, how many of them touched your life through their inspiration, through their story? That's saying to everybody. And this awards like this, they're great. And I do appreciate it. I really do. I was firmly surprised. My family is busy. My wife is a kindergarten teacher, educating the next generation of kids. God bless her every day. My children are both interviewing for new jobs today. My youngest daughter is prepping for Tuesday, which is their assessments, their state assessments tomorrow. So they couldn't join us, but they're here in spirit. I just texted them. Just to everyone who have been touched by the lives of these women, this is the very minimum that we can do to recognize two women who have changed the lives of so many people and do it so selflessly. Through all the ups and downs that they've experienced, through all the hardships and struggles, if y'all don't know that your life have made a difference for anyone on earth, know that for me and for my children and my family, you were God sent. With that said, God bless you all.
We get to our final award. This is on behalf of the committee, and I was supposed to have a speech for this one, but I couldn't come up with anything. I know you're saying Dr. Williams had nothing prepared. No. Interesting enough, coming to Texas A&M, one of the interesting things we often say, often I've been asked, why Texas A&M? For people of color, particularly Black individuals, the question is always, why Texas A&M? Dr. Slatter is not here today, but when I came on tour, he actually took me around campus and he gave me a little history lesson. And he says, there's an individual on campus that you don't see, but he's here. He's always here. He started this. I said, who is this individual? Is this like a boogeyman? Like, let me know what's going on. He said, Senator Matthew Gaines. So as a great researcher, I started doing research on Senator Matthew Gaines. He wasn't just the person who, pushed forth this bill, utilizing the Moral Act. He was doing the work before we even thought of to do the work. He advocated for prison reform. We still kind of do that right now, right? Kind of do that. He advocated for education reform, right? We kind of do that a little bit, right? He advocated for the rights of freedmen, and he advocated the rights for agricultural workers. Now, this is the most interesting fact that I found out about Senator Matthew Gaines. He was a slave not once, not twice, 3 times. Let that sink in. Sometimes we face hurdles one time and we're like, we out, we quit. 3 times. But as the committee came up with this idea to present him and his family with this award, he is the epitome of yesterday, today, and forever. He is Black excellence, living forever, because every student who enters through Texas A&M or any land-grant institution in Texas or anything that was produced after Texas is responsible as the result of his hard work and his tireless sacrifice. So again, we often use this phrase, representation matters. Now, excellent representation matters. Again, please welcome to the stage soon to be doctoral candidate, so give it up again, Mason Alexander Hawk. We present this award to Senator Matthews Gaines' family and her. Please welcome her to the stage.
Right. You have to excuse me. I've been fighting a terrible cold for the last week. So on behalf of myself, my family, and the Matthew Gaines Society, I want to start by thanking the School of Education and Human Development and the Carter-Larke Lecture Series for recognizing and honoring Senator Matthew Gaines with the Lifetime Achievement Award. There is no future without a past. Honors such as this one that recognize and uplift the life of Senator Matthew Gaines not only ensure that his contributions are not forgotten, but also continue to carry on his legacy, one that is both incredible and undeniable. Matthew Gaines was a champion of African-American rights, including advocating for prison reform, education, and voting rights. Matthew Gaines is a figure of perseverance and resilience. He is a true representation of the Aggie core values. He is the definition of Black excellence, yesterday, today, and forever. When I think about ideas such as impact and legacy, or what it means to be excellent, the researcher in me instantly asks, how can we measure that? But I wonder, are these concepts truly quantifiable? I feel it's innate to want to measure impact based on scale. The idea that the more people affected equates to a greater impact. But what if you only affect one person's life? Who is to say that is any less influential? Or what if that one person whose life you change then goes on to change someone else's? Then how do we measure collateral impact? For instance, take the legacy of Senator Matthew Gaines. His fight for increased access to education and the betterment of all people helps make it possible for us to all be here today. Counting all of the generation of Aggies, that's presumably hundreds of thousands of lives changed. But when I think of Matthew Gaines' impact, I think of my aunts sitting at the table who are here today with us. They are public servants, they are educators, they are mothers. I think of myself, his great-great-great-granddaughter, who has also chosen a life of public service and is pursuing her PhD at the very university he helped establish. Collateral impact, perhaps. Who he was in his essence has transcended through our family for generations. And while numerically our family tree is a lot smaller than the Aggie family tree, it reaffirms to me that in certain contexts, impact is too subjective to truly measure. It is an intangible feeling that is experienced at the individual level. I say all this to say, as we continue this journey of life and we make conscious choices to lead with empathy, respect, integrity, and selflessness, we may not change hundreds of thousands of lives, and we may not see the impact that we have made today, we may not see it tomorrow, and we may not see it in our lifetime. But I hope that we all remember that any mark you leave in this world all starts from within, and your legacy will undoubtedly follow. And to me, that is Black excellence. Thank you again for this acknowledgement of Senator Matthew Gaines.
All righty, we are going on to phase 3 of the program. We have some very instrumental people in the room, and like I said, I don't take it for granted that they paid the trip up here. They are the living embodiment of what Black excellence is as teachers or researchers, scholars, activists, and etc. I will give them some brief introductions, and then I will get the actual discussing up. The first individual, before we get back, I got to go one back. If you have any questions for the panel, and if we have time, we have a QR code up here. We have a link for those who are here, those online. Please use this QR code and this link to type in a question. We may get to your question, we may not. However, if you don't ask the question, you don't have a chance. All righty, we will move on to our panelists now. Please welcome to the stage, Dr. Ayana Allen, Associate Professor at Drexel University. She has won the Early Career Faculty Award at her university, the Ernest A. Linton Award for Scholarship and Engagement, and author of numerous publications dealing with Black girls, STEAM, and Black teachers. She is also the director of the Justice-Oriented Youth Education Lab. Please welcome to stage a fellow Aggie now, Dr. Ayana Allen Handy. Please give her a round of applause. Our next panelist is a professor and endowed chair in educational leadership and counseling at Prairie View A&M University. If you are doing research about high performance and high impact and you're not citing this brother, you're doing it all wrong. He has won numerous awards, millions with double S's of dollars of grants, and is the founding executive director of Minority Achievement, Creativity, and High Ability, also known as Mach 3. Please welcome to the stage, Dr. Fred Bonner. Our next individual has over 20 years of experience in higher education and public schools. He is the author of multiple publications and has received funding from the National Science Foundation. That's pretty big in our world, NSF. This individual is a living embodiment of praxis, which is the connection of theory to the practical environment that the teachers work in. Currently, the Dean of Graduate Studies at Prairie View A&M. Dean, keep that in mind, Dean. Welcome, Dr. Tyrone Tanner. So for some of us, this is a welcome. For some of us, it is a welcome back. Some of us know a little bit about this individual, just a smidgen. This individual has over 100 peer-reviewed publications. Let that sink in. 100. He is the author of numerous books. He has the only international conference on urban education in the galaxy, as far as we know. He has cranked out multiple grants, $1 million grants. He has also produced numerous students who have gone on to get high-profile jobs in epic fashion. Please give a good Aggie welcome for some of us and a welcome back for the rest. It's Dr. Chance Lewis. Last but not least, we have our discussant, who is Dr. Kamala Williams, who will be the aficionado for this panel. Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Okay, welcome. Thank you for our group of panelists here. I have a chair. I don't have a mic, so I'm going to use the podium if that's okay with everybody. And we can just talk like this. This is a very informal conversation. We'll have some questions coming in from offline, but I have some questions that were already presented to our panelists here. You all in the audience know this group of scholars, and they all can talk a lot. They can tell us about their research for a long time. So I'm gonna do them a little hand wave. So let them know, okay, your time is up. So they know I'm standing over here doing a little hand wave because we want to actually hear from all the panelists and get their responses, and then actually have some questions from the audience as well. So we all have our rules down. A little hand means we're going on to the next question. So we're going to start off. We have two outstanding scholars, Dr. Larke and Dr. Carter, both here at A&M, were scholars in urban education and multicultural education. So I'm going to start us out with a question for Dr. Lewis. That's okay. Dr. Lewis, can you start us out by just answering the question or talking to us a little bit about what you do in research, and then why you think urban education is important then I have a follow-up question to that. But if you can just start us off with telling us, why is urban education important?
Well, thank you all so much for having me here. I'm so happy to be back. This feels like a family reunion. So I just thank you for having me here. For the question of today, to start us off, my research at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte is focused on specifically urban education. That's my life story, being born and raised in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, Louisiana. But for today's conversation, just to contextualize where we are, when you look at what is urban education in today's environment and historically how it's been studied, it is the context of the schooling for young adults who are in K through 12 and higher education settings. And so when you look at that in that context, and that context matters for a variety of reasons, because if any of you have studied urban education and you understand city dynamics and how they're made up, cities are changing day by day, but that schooling experience inside of that geographical context is very important. And I would say for those of you who want to study and learn more about urban education, Milner does a good job of giving us some core definitions that I think are important as well. When you look at urban intensive cities, these larger cities like your Houstons and your Dallases, New Yorks of the world, there's a context around that in that schooling experience. But then you look at, some others like urban emerging cities like Charlotte, where I live, Nashville, Austin. There's a similar context there, but the cities aren't as large. But when you look at the amount of resource allocation and all of these things that go along with it, that plays a part in the schooling experiences of youth who attend those schools. And then you have basically from that particular point, those schools and school districts that have these urban characteristics that may be in the suburbs. And because I get this all the time, well, Dr. Lewis, we're not urban, we just have urban characteristics. Now, I don't have time to dig into that today, right? But as you start to look at that, there's another unique context as well. But I want to close this part of the question by saying this, is that when you understand context, one thing we cannot forget, because this is my life's work, right, is that I want you to take this in each and every state in the country. Can we contextualize that over 100 schools are deemed failing right now? And if you multiply that times the number of children that are in those schools, then you start to look at the power of why we have to do things and study and provide solutions in these particular contexts, is because when you have that kind of accountability going on in each and every state around the country, all of us know some kid that may be related to us or closely connected to us as part of that system, and is not due to the fault of the student. It's a system issue that we have to continue to address as well.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lewis. Thank you. Before we move on to the next part of that question, would any of the other panelists like to expound on his explanation of urban education?
Oh, I would just add that when I look at those babies that were up there singing this morning, I think about how many students are in our schools that don't have teachers that see the greatness in each one of those kids. And so I'm thinking why urban education is because we've got to help teachers dismantle deficit model thinking so that they see those babies and realize and see the greatness within them. And I'm talking about seeing, because sometimes you don't even know that this work is at work, the deficit, because it's part of this matrix that we're all in. And so urban education helps you deconstruct that in a way that you're able to understand the Pygmalion effect and how our beliefs inform our behavior, and how we maintain the expectations, how we teach every child like it's our own. And that's a lot of that work, I can't say it enough, came from scholars like Dr. Norvella Carter, who took us under her wing, and Pat Larke, and put us and shared with us how this work happens almost unbeknown. So I can't say it enough. Our babies need us as it relates to our needs urban education. as it relates to helping them move to this next phase of their life. They deserve it.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis and Dr. Tanner. The second part of that question, and I'd like to direct this to you as well, Dr. Lewis. Describe the difference between urban education and multicultural education, because there's a difference. And then tell me how or do they intersect?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, each one of these could be a lecture in itself, but she provided the guidelines up front, so we'll stick to that. But when you look at the contextual basis of what I said with urban education, okay, now you zoom in and think about inside of that school, inside of that classroom, the educational process that is going on, right? So when a teacher teaches, and we talk about, developing the content integration, what's the viewpoint that the teacher brings to that particular classroom? What perspectives do they bring in? Okay, and you think about a key word, what does a teacher or educator or leader expose those students to? That's a choice that is rooted in multicultural education. You think about equitable practices inside of that school, okay? You think about the school culture, how it's laid out, how it's conceptualized inside of that dynamic. All of that is tied to, for those students that are in the room that are studying multicultural education, you think about those tenets that from James Banks and all the many scholars and Dr. Larke and Dr. Carter who have contributed to that particular knowledge base. When you think about that context in the midst of what I said previously in urban education being in that particular dynamic, then what you start to see as you think about all of that, when you think about inside of a school district, we're talking about the same school district, how is it then, can you have one school in that district that has plenty of resources, excellent facilities, educational programs, viewpoints, study abroad in high school, all these types of things that are going on, and within the same school district, on the other side of the school district, dilapidated buildings, lack of structure in the classroom, lack of exposure in that classroom. So you look at how that intersects, with the geographic context of urban education and then the tenets of multicultural education. It plays out in what we see for our students and the type of education that they receive inside of these particular settings. And that's important for us to consider for all of us who are concerned about education, or those who are concerned at all in the community context, because the power of the educator is they choose what they will or will not expose to a student, and that's power.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Would anyone else like to add to his discussion on multicultural and urban? If not, I'll move on to the next question. So this question, does anyone want to add to it? Oh, okay. I'm going to move this question to Dr. Allen. Dr. Allen, I know you as a researcher, and you have a lot of research in urban schools, formerly working with urban teachers, but now doing community-based research. Explain to the audience what type of research you're doing, the methodology, and how that works with communities and youth.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I'm just so grateful to be here to honor Dr. Larke and Dr. Carter, who are my professors, and such inspiration to me. So it's wonderful to be here in representation of you. So I currently run a research lab at Drexel University called the Justice Oriented Youth Education Lab, which we call the Joy Lab. And within the Joy Lab, we are an intergenerational group of community researchers. So that's youth, young adults, middle-aged adults, and older adults. We have researchers from 18 to 80 that we work with. And also engaging in critical participatory action research. That's our main methodology, which means that our community researchers are at every single juncture of the research process. When we are writing grants, they are at the table with us, constructing research questions, the methodologies, the design. Even when we're collecting data, they are collecting data, they're analyzing data, they are giving us instruction on how to conduct focus groups. And it's this really dynamic group of folks, 18 to 80. I'll talk about two particular projects that we're working on right now. They are both externally funded through AmeriCorps and the National Science Foundation. Our project through AmeriCorps is looking at anti-displacement and gentrification in our community. So it's not just the locus of education, it's really looking at the sociology, the social context of what's happening in our neighborhoods. The AmeriCorps project, we are in year 5, and we currently have an NSF Civic Innovation Planning Grant, which is really looking at building a constellation of homes for co-housing so that our neighbors can age in place with our students. So it's looking at this university adjacent community and how we can create co-housing structure. So we have a partnership with a developer, a $65 million project, a Black-owned developer in the neighborhood, and we're looking at equitable development. And so although my roots are in education, I was actually a first grade teacher in HISD and a counselor here in Houston. My research has expanded beyond the classroom into this real social context of education landscape. And then we also have one other project. One of our high schools, it's the first high school in West Philadelphia, west of the Schuylkill River, which is a major river that runs through Philly. The first high school built in 1911, and it is an anchor of the Black community in West Philly, West Philadelphia High School. My mother was an alum and many of my family members. Most recently, the original building that was built in 1911 was sold by the school district and became high-end condos that have priced out many of the neighbors and community members. And during the move, there was a lot of displacement of cultural artifacts, and a lot of the school's history was lost. And so this project, Preserving History for the Persistent Legacy of West Philadelphia High School, is an intergenerational team of researchers, of youth at the school, and also seniors. They're in the lab almost once a week, working on preserving the artifacts. So we are digitizing yearbooks from 1911 to the present. We are preserving the artifacts for the school, and also conducting oral histories of some of the neighbors that went to West Philly High and preserving. So those are just 2 examples of some of the research that we do in the Joy Lab.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. You mentioned in your discussion gentrification in your area, and you just kind of described a situation of gentrification. Can you talk to the audience and us about gentrification and how that has impacted urban education?
Absolutely.
Or urban schools?
Absolutely. So I think Dr. Lewis, you alluded to this about the social context within which our schools exist. I can talk about our particular neighborhood where we've seen displacement up to 200% in the last couple of years, just from this onslaught of development and rapid development happening. Particularly in Philadelphia, it's a really interesting context where the universities, University of Pennsylvania and Drexel University, are really embedded in a historically Black neighborhood. And historically, there's been a lot of displacement at the hand of the university. And what's happening now is this community kind of activism to preserve land and try to push back against the displacement that's taken place. When looking through census data, we've been able to see that each block, we have like block level data that shows that African Americans have been pushed out up to 200% and being replaced rapidly. As development comes, there's all kinds of policy. So it's really this kind of constellation of what's happening with policy, what's happening at the university level, what's happening at the neighborhood level. But the data is really showing that, neighborhoods are changing rapidly. And what happens to our school? So that school I was telling you about, West Philly High, that used to serve over 4,000 students, currently has, around 400 students, 100 students per class, and being set up to possibly not even serve Black students as the demographic shift. The demographics are shifting rapidly in Philadelphia, and particularly our neighborhood, West Philly. And so looking at gentrification, which, I think as researchers, it's really hard to operationalize what is gentrification. We see it, we smell it, you can kind of sense that this change is happening, but being able to have measures to measure it, those are things we're looking at, and we're doing it in a community-driven way with the community at the table as our researchers. So we publish with our community researchers, our youth are publishing as well. And so it's really, I think from my vantage point, being able to leverage the resources of the institution to make the kind of impact and change that we want to see.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Allen. I have a question, Dr. Tanner. I know that you're a dean now, an administrator, but former administrator in K through 12, and you have a lot of research that focuses on parents and involvement in parents. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you engage families and communities in the education process and involve them in decision-making?
Yes, well, obviously, it starts with the school district sincerely wanting parents involved. And so a lot of the work that I have started deals with engaging parents in a way and administration on a level that allows them to create the kind of organizational structure that we actually bring parents and make them a part of the decision-making process. I think obviously there's challenges with the availability and the time. And so we've got to be very strategic in how we organize. Now, I will tell you something that jumps out at me. I don't know if you remember this, Chance, but I remember Dr. Carter many years ago created a lot of partnerships with different school districts. And one element, because she recognized that you had to work with the teachers, and everybody needs something different. It's kind of like differentiating instruction, right? And so, but there was this line. So Chance would do some work on teachers, and I would do some work on parents, and we would have different other people that would work on various pieces of this work. And what I realized as I think about even this committee here that panelists, I think about the work, how it kind of guided all of us together. And it starts with us having someone that cares enough, that's courageous enough to start the work. So if you want to get in that form of us, I can tell you, Dr. Carter was a big part of how that was structured for us, because from there, she taught Chance and I how to engage with these districts in a way where we could address both the needs of parents, both the needs of teachers, and the school leaders. And from there, we began to do a lot of work. And so I think it's important to me to point out how these ladies have significantly impacted. If you look at Chance, what he's doing, you look at what I'm doing, you look at Fred's at PV, you look at it, went here under. These ladies have been extraordinary in creating the structure, the strategic model in order to create the change. And so I would say that parents will get involved when we build trust, and that trust has to look like you really care. When we teach them, when we teach, not the parents, teach teachers how to love and respect our children, the parents will come. You know why they'll come? Because the babies are going home saying, you know what, this teacher is the best. They saw the greatness in me. And see, that's where the whole cultural responsiveness, parents want to be involved, but they don't want to be involved when the first call they get is about how negative the child is. I mean, you know, little Tyrone calling. First day of school. You know what the mother's sitting there thinking? Lord, Tyrone, it's just the first day. What you have done, what you done done. And then the teacher turns around and says, your son, Tyrone, has so much greatness within. See, a lot of us have bad credit today because we don't make deposits before we make withdrawal. And so some of what has to happen, getting parents engaged, is just about understanding how to connect and communicate in a way that makes people want to be a part of what you're trying to make them a part of. And so there's no magic, there's no, soup, no pixel dust. It's just straightforward caring. I'm on a call the other day, and I'm listening to some of the D&I conversations, and we begin to talk about, how do we address this? And I just simply said, maybe we just change the word and call it love for all. I think about Julie's out there, and we've been working together on creating initiatives around the Senator Matthew Gaines and the Matthew Gaines Scholar between PV and Texas A&M, where our PhD students can come and teach a course here. And Texas A&M students can come teach a course at PV. Why? Because he helped create the funding for both institutions. Come on. But we've got to talk about that. Parents need to know that. Parents want to be a part of the things that they hear about their children that are good. And so I can talk a little bit all day about this part, but it's really just simple. Treat my children like it's your own child, and I want to be involved.
Thank you, Dr. Tanner, for that. I'm going to move to Dr. Bonner. Dr. Bonner, I'm not going to leave you out of this discussion. I know your research is in resiliency, Black males, high achieving students. And so just before I ask your question, just tell the audience a little bit about your center, what you do, and a little bit about your research.
Sure, absolutely. So,
Can you hear?
Uh-oh.
Can you turn his mic up?
Okay.
There you go.
No.
Oh, he said just keep talking.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Huh. I don't
He's
want
control.
Okay, there. All right. There we go. So the first thing I would like to say is that, I was so blessed when I was here at Texas A&M to walk into a building with two women. They were the frame. I was trying to create the lens. I was trying to get myself into focus. I was trying to balance a career. I was trying to understand what it meant to be a Black academic here in College Station. I was trying to understand what it meant to go from assistant to associate to full. But the beauty about being here is that I had two models in the building. I had the griots. I could always look to them. I could always cast my gaze to what they were doing. They set the bar. So that was the beautiful thing about how I was able to really craft my career in starting with these two sages who poured so much into me, just as Dr. James said. They poured so much into us, and I'm forever grateful. So to pivot to your question about the research, I have tried to spend my career framing an asset-based model approach, because everything that we had heard about Black males, and my research focuses on high-achieving, academically gifted Black males. I started there because I wanted to tell a different narrative. As the research says, I wanted to tell a counter narrative. The narrative out there, the dominant narrative, was that Black males were not successful. They were not doing well. They were not. That wasn't my. I graduated from the country, small high school here in Texas. I'm from Jefferson, Texas. My graduating class, 100 students there in the East Texas block. But graduated, top 5% of my class went on to undergraduate, graduated cum laude from the University of North Texas in chemistry. So I had parents who were both educated. Mom and dad both graduated from Prairie View A&M University, both had their master's degrees, had family, had friends. They weren't playing into that narrative that we were getting about Black males, about the Black family, about Black people. So I decided very early on that I was going to tell a very different narrative, that I wanted to tell an asset as opposed to a deficit-based model. So the one thing I will say, my chair said to me very early on, he's like, look, you've got to be prepared because the world is not quite ready for your research. And I'm saying, you should do it. I'm not telling you not to do it. It absolutely should be done. But you're going to have some pushback from your people and from my people. My chair was a white male. A lot of people don't know this. Very invested in students of color. He said the pushback from your people is going to be that you're only focusing on the Black elites. The pushback from my people is going to be that a gifted Black male doesn't even exist. So I have tried from the very beginning of what I have done by way of research in this academy, whether it's here at Texas A&M, whether it was at Rutgers University, whether it's now being in a minority serving institutional context, Prairie View A&M University, my narrative has always been the same. Let's look at the assets that people of color, Black, brown, women, whatever those diversities are. How can we focus on assets as opposed to deficit?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bonner. I have another question specifically for you. It says, Black men make up only, because I know you do research in Black men. Black men make up only 2% of the nation's teacher workforce. Aside from pay, what do you think the rate, why do you think the rate is so low? And more importantly, how can large school districts, what can they do going forward to combat this issue? And that was a question that was sent in. Thank you.
Excellent question. And that is one that is kind of right now very near and dear to my heart. I have an existing grant that I just got from, thank you. I have an existing grant that I just got from the Kellogg Foundation. And my grant is titled BMST, Black Male STEM Teach. So this grant is designed to get more Black men to address that 2% Black male teachers, to get more Black men teaching science, teaching STEM at the middle school level. So I just want to very briefly share with y'all. Many times we write these grants, and my colleagues can attest to this, most of the time, you know, it's like a crapshoot. You don't, maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't, I probably won't. If I don't get it, I'll write it up again. This was the one time in my academic career, I knew we were going to get this grant. And let me tell you why. When I did my work, when I did the research, I found, and I used Houston Independent School District. I said, you know, I'm going to use HISD. At the time, that was the 4th largest school district in the country. So whatever we do for Black males here is going to be great across the country. So when I did my research, I found that when you put in the filter, when you said Black teachers, and I'm going to be rough here, but I'll get close. When you say Black teachers, HISD, you got something like 1,800, almost 2,000. Then when you said Black male teachers, then it dropped down to something like 400. Then when you said Black male teachers in STEM, it dropped down to about 65. Then when you said Black male teachers in STEM at the middle grades level, it dropped down to 9. 9 Black men at the middle school level teaching STEM in the 4th largest school district in this country. That was the story. And I knew Kellogg was going to bite off on that. So that is part of what we're doing at Prairie View and what I'm doing at the Mach 3 Center to try to address the paucity of Black male teachers, particularly Black male teachers in STEM. And there's a reason you have to justify everything for these grants. The literature bears out that if you're going to lose us, if you're going to lose Black males, brown males, you typically lose them at the middle grades level, is what they call it. If they don't have it together by middle school, then they're pretty much locked out of a STEM pathway moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Bonner, for that. I have another question for you and actually Dr. Lewis. I want you to just talk to us a little bit about your current research or specific projects. You just described a project you're working on in the field of urban education and how you hope your work will contribute to improving educational outcomes for students in urban areas. Dr. Lewis?
Well, I'll just tag team with Dr. Bonner, what he said about the representation, because my work was focused on Black male teachers in that urban context. And when we talk about the follow-up question that you asked, you know, how can you recruit more teachers? And one of the kind of foundational pieces that I had when I was a faculty member here with Dr. Bonner and Dr. James, you know, at that particular time, we actually wrote an article actually published in the National Journal of Urban Education and Practice, which was a framework for recruiting Black males into teaching. And so the predominant question all across the country is how can we recruit, you know, more Black and brown male teachers in the classroom, okay? And in my mind, as I thought about it, I said, this is real simple, you know, in my mind, because if we need them in teacher preparation programs, one thing I know that they're already on the campus. They're just on the other side of the campus, in the athletic departments and other places on campus. So what we developed, you know, and this is a passion of mine, an athletic model of recruitment, because as you start to look at this, you know, in many places across the country, teacher education doesn't actively recruit. We sit and wait to see who applies. But on the other side of the campus, you could be in elementary school If you look like you have talent, you can get a scholarship in 7th grade, okay, to come to the school. So I took that same model and said at that particular time, if I take each stage of the NCAA recruitment process, unofficial visits, official visits, and tie that to recruitment and education, there was a framework already in place now that could show teacher education how to recruit. And at this particular time, and many people didn't know I did this at the time, when I was here, the star quarterback at the time, and you could just put the timelines together, was actually a Black quarterback. And so if you test your Aggie football history here, okay, and his jersey number was number 1. I'll let you figure out his name, okay? And so at that particular time, he was the quarterback, but I partnered with athletics to pilot the athletic model of recruitment as well. So athletic counselors started to talk with counselors in teacher education and figure out how to make this work. And at that time, quarterback number 1 was an education major as a part of this particular initiative as well. So I know it can be done, right? But that's what research allows you to do, to move policy, move change in such a way where now if you go to any football game across the nation or basketball game, if you look at the academic majors of a lot of the athletes, you'll see a lot of similarities in the major, okay? And I won't go past that point. But outside of that, though, when you look at what could happen as a part of different sides of the campus talking to each other, because I told teacher education, they're already on scholarship. So you don't even have to pay for them because they're already on scholarship. You just have to work with athletics to make sure you can, do some of the hurdles that we have in place around field-based hours to make it work as well. But that's the power of research and what it can do to make change in these particular spaces, to solve some of the problems and some of the issues that are before us right now in the field of education. But I think we're entering now into a landscape where research cannot just be done with inside the walls of the traditional academic boundary, right? It has to be collaborative across multiple stakeholders, and many stakeholders who we never thought of before, okay? We need to have at the table, as we conceptualize our research, donors, policymakers, all of these people are at the table at the same time, but also collaborating within and across, like what Dr. Bonner is saying, STEM teachers. So now we're talking about collaboration with engineering, we're talking about collaboration with science. So this is the landscape that we're in now, where you can no longer be singular in your approach to asking those types of questions in the work that we do.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. I've been notified that we are out of time. We have a lot more questions. As you can see, this audience, the panelists here have lots of information to share, lots of knowledge to share with us. We just don't have that much time today. And so I want to thank the panelists for answering our questions and for being here today to honor Dr. Carter and Dr. Lewis at this lecture series. I think for the audience to know if it's okay, if they have other questions, maybe they can approach you if you have time for a little while afterwards, after the thing, but I'm gonna turn it back over to Dr. Williams. Okay. Who has let me know that my time was up. So thank you.
Please give our panelists a round of applause as they exit the stage. Thank you all. Again, when we put this dream team together, it was like, how do we do something to continue the legacy, but at the same time, enrich individuals' lives, not only with the food that is here, but also with the knowledge. So as we begin to close our program, I have a gift for you all. I know you all weren't thinking I had gifts, but I have a gift. Please mark your calendar for the next Carter-Larke lecture. Get your phones out, get them ready. February 26, 2024. We have the date already. Same bat time, same bat channel. We will be in this room. For those who are online, please, if you can, stop by Aggieland. I suggest you do. But we have the date. That date is February 26th. I would like to welcome to the stage Dr. Larke and Dr. Carter for for closing remarks. And then from there, we have the Dean, Michael D. Miranda, who will take us on home. So I can bring the mic down to you all, or you all, however you all want. Okay, come on up. Look, come on, look.
Those of you who know me, you know I had to say something smart, so you left yourself open for that. Thank you. And I know we hear that word often, but it has such a powerful meaning. I'm thankful and blessed to be back at Texas A&M University, where I see my good friend, Dr. D. Miranda. You know, we're good friends, we're buddies now. And where I met a new friend, Dr. Katz. This is where I started in 1984, which is before some of you were barely in elementary school, in high school, barely thinking about college. What can I say? In the celebration of the Carter-Larke Black History Program. Thanks to the panel, who I've had the pleasure of working with or teaching, I see you doing good. Glad that you were able to share those words of wisdom to the audience. But now to the audience. This continuation of this annual event epitomizes the word hope, H-O-P-E. While I was teaching here or speaking at many conferences, I would always share by 3 C's. And those of you who know it, about my shoes: cute, comfortable, and cheap. And I would always use the word hegemony. Those of you know in class, you know you had to define it. And I define it usually using this example. I went to my first Aggie football game, and you know, I'm from a predominantly Black university. And when you go to the game, you sit down. But I have a new revelation when I came to Texas A&M. Still remembering now, I had my 3 C's: cute, comfortable, and cheap. Then I realized that instead of sitting down, I had to stand up. Now, did I participate in my own oppression with my cute, comfortable, and not cheap shoes? And not comfortable? Yes. But today, I want to leave you 3 C's. And that is communication, co-responsibility, and change. Communication implies 2 parts, a sender and a receiver. You must communicate to others the importance of Black history and these types of lectures. We are at a time in Black history where it's being marginalized. You cannot teach, speak, or write Black history. Knowledge is power. People will perish without a lack of knowledge. The next generation will perish if you're not willing to communicate. Use your communication skill. All of you are writers, the pen and text. And Mimi, I can text now. You notice that I did get here with your text. And since I have my paper, I do know how to put this on my phone, but you know, just want to make sure that, you know, I'm technology oriented now. Use your technology to tell your elected officials to stop trying to dismantle diversity and democracy. These are strengths of the nation and the world. Co-responsibility, you cannot do this alone. I learned that many years ago when I was the only Black professor in the department, TLAC. I recruited Norvella, Gwen, and you know, the rest is history. We worked together, Norvella with urban education, and Chance, I was so glad you defined that because I didn't want to have to come to the panel. Gwen in education administration and special education, and I was in multicultural education, which is the umbrella for your urban ed, rural ed, and all other kind of ed. So while you're here, the days of being the only lonely is over. You have to be a friend to get a friend. See, some of you can't recruit because you're not friendly. Change, that's my third C. The formula for insanity is keep doing the same things, you get the same results. What I did would not work for John Williams. The Dean here is not Dean Corrigan. My friend is Dr. D. Miranda, and I can call you friend now. People are different. Stop trying to make everyone fit. Accept differences, not as deficit, but as strengths. Being the only person of color in these predominantly white institutions is a travesty. And it's insanity that many Black children will go through their entire K-12 schooling experience without ever having a Black teacher. That in itself is disgraceful. Except this is a land grant university, okay? Last time we know land grant is not private. That's a whole big difference. Know the history. Do you want all males again at Texas A&M? Do you want no faculty of color? Do you want no females? That's what it was. Jim Crow mentality. Challenge that in a technological driven society. It does not work. You have to challenge those who are trying to dismantle civil rights, hate speech, and the airways that breed conspiracy theories and voter suppression. Your great grandparents endured too much for you to decide not to vote. Just looking at some of the statistics here, 19 million people in the state of Texas could vote, but only 2 million people voted. Now that's a shame. Look it up. Now, if I got that wrong, I might have been looking at Fox. You know, they do say things. People have died for you to be here. Use your voice and technology to change the narrative and develop social action agenda. Remember, multicultural education in and of itself is social action. Now remember, take it to heart. While I support change, as I previously shared, always remember to have integrity. Please note the virtues of lying and stealing were wrong in the first century. And believe it or not, lying and stealing are still wrong in the year 2023, no matter what Santos says. In closing, I have hope. Hope is the belief things will work, especially when it seems otherwise. So no matter what the legislator or your governor says, this annual event will continue because what? You know how to communicate. You know that you need, this requires co-responsibility, and Chance says it so well, and you now seeing it. And you know I have to recognize this. I didn't think D. Miranda would fit here at Texas A&M because he was from the engineering department. And I said, what can an engineer know about education? But Chance, you had a good point. Educators cannot stay in education. You have to venture out. So now you have somebody from philosophy to share, because we all need ideas to work together. So, and Norvella, I thought I was going to be last. But I just want you to know, keep my 3 C's. That is communication, co-responsibility, and above all, change. Thank you. I'm going to get somebody who put me behind Pat Larke. All right. But I want you to know that this day is a glorious, glorious day for me. I just got welled up. I just got welled up till I couldn't almost talk when I began to see all of the scholars, the researchers, the graduates who are so prominent now that came out of our programs that really represent the models that we put together. And you know, we didn't know it would go out. You can't always see your future. It's up here and you're back here. And many times Pat Larke and I have asked, will we see the fruit of our labor? We work so hard. And Pat was saying, don't work so hard, work smart. And it's like, well, when will we see the fruit of our labor? This is the fruit of our labor. This is the fruit of our labor. I am so proud of you. I could just, like I said, I could hardly talk. I could hardly talk. And as I come, and I'm going to be short, I know the time is gone, but usually I'm the one to talk about love and hope and joy. And the warrior here usually talks about fighting. But I come to ask you to become warriors, to become fighters for equity, to become warriors for what needs to be done. Our future is at stake. Well, I looked at those children. I got welled up looking at the children. They are our future. You are our immediate future. All of you who are in prime time right now, the professors who are cranking it out and the graduate students who are going to be our leaders. I just applaud you for the work that you're doing, but I also encourage you to fight the good fight. You need to become warriors because everything can be stripped away if you don't. Even our academic freedom, everything that's going on, voting rights, all of the equity things that we stand for are at stake. Put on your gloves, put up your dukes, and begin the fight. And it will pay off. We have nothing to lose. We have to take this on. And I'm just so proud. This panel, I got welled up with the panel. I just, all of them have played a major, major role in my professional career and their personal friends. And I just want to say to Dr. Lewis, we still miss you, Dr. Ayana Allen Handy. I'm so proud of you. We remember when she was in our classes, you know, and then we have our colleagues, Dr. Bonner, Dr. Tanner. They used to be young. Now I will call them in prime time, but I'm still gonna call them young because that makes us old. So we're not gonna go there. Y'all still young, but you're in your prime time. And Dr. Kamala Williams, who worked so long and hard with Dr. Lewis and I together in the center that we had. I just thank you for moderating the panel and being here. But I just want to say too, Dr. DeMiranda, you're my friend, okay? It was Pat who said, we don't want an engineer, do we? And I was like, well, maybe he'll work out. But now, you know, Dr. DeMiranda, I just, you know, just bless you, all of you, Dr. Katz and Dr. John Singer, and I see Tammy Reynolds there. I just really appreciate my time with you and all that has been accomplished. I really do. And I just want to thank you, Dr. Williams. Your graduate students were just so great and wonderful to us, just marvelous. Dr. Marlon James, you know you made me cry, right? Okay. But I recruited him out of Chicago and brought him here. And Dr. Larke and I both have, you know, really, we have invested in him. We have invested in him. So all of you, the faculty that I see, and I have to say this before I sit down, my life changer is here. My life changer is my husband of 49 years, William Charles Carter. Stand up, sweetheart. You got to stand up. Okay. Woo. It'll be 50 years next year, 2024, we'll celebrate 50 years. He is here. I also have 2 children who are here. China, Victoria, stand up. Okay. They are Aggies. They got their doctorates from Texas A&M University, and I love their chairs and their committee members for getting my children out. My son-in-law is here. He's an Aggie with a doctorate out of TLAC, and he is here. Wave. He's holding the baby, Vivian Norvella. She's my youngest grandchild that's 1 year old. I also have 5 grandchildren who are here. Jasmine, Michaela, KJ, he looks asleep. He's little Kevin, Olivia, and Vivian Norvella. And I have some guests. I just want to mention them quickly. John Gonzalez is here. That's my granddaughter's boyfriend. All right. But also, I want you to know I have 2 very good friends, Michelle Sanders, who is here with me, and my friend Priscilla. And Priscilla has a name that I stumble on, so I don't want to mess it up on the microphone. But I can't remember. I wrote it down. Akamafula. Hey, that's it. Okay, that's her last name. And also, I just want to say very lastly that there is a bishop in the house. Yes, my bishop is here, and First Lady and Executive Director are here. Wave your hand. And she has a partnership with TLAC where they are community leaders, and they have contributed to the graduate cohort that is coming through Dr. Williams' program and Dr. Quinita Ogletree's program. I don't see Dr. Ogletree. She's right in front of my face. See, just getting so old. But I just want to acknowledge everybody and just tell you that I love you. I am so happy to see my students. I am amazed that you came out. Pat Larke and I, she never knew that we would be like we are when she recruited me from Chicago. But it has been a journey. We've traveled together internationally. We have fought together, but never in public. We always came out on one accord in public because we really do love each other, no matter if we differ. We all know that urban is the program and that we use multicultural, okay? So I'm just going to say that we are just very happy to be here while we are still walking, talking, and breathing and on one accord with each other. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
You all got a treat today you weren't expecting. I know I did. Please welcome to the stage. This is a great individual, a great man, a great leader, always providing wisdom and talks with apples in the morning. Please welcome to the stage our Dean, Michael D. Miranda.
Howdy. I'll make this very brief because this is almost worse than standing between you and lunch. But you've heard the stories today. never told me how she voted. But I think I know now what it was. So when those of you that were on the committee that said it was unanimous, you were lying to me. I want to take this time in 2017, Dr. James came up to me with this idea about having this luncheon. And we used every penny that we had to make it happen. And I want to thank you for that, sir. I also want to take the opportunity to thank Mr. John Williams, the third chair of this year's committee, and the committee and graduate students for this world-class event. I'd like to also thank Dr. Lewis, Dr. Bonner, Dr. Allen Handy, Dr. Tanner, and Dr. Williams for the privilege of your presence today on our distinguished panel. I'd also like to ask if you would please join me once again in recognizing our award winners, Dr. Jamilia Blake, Dr. Marlon James, and Senator Matthew Gaines. The children of Kemp Carver Elementary School, who always do a wonderful job for us. And most of all, to top off our wonderful, wonderful afternoon, Dr. Carter and Dr. Larke. On behalf of the world-class faculty, staff, students, and community that support the School of Education and Human Development, I think, Pat, you're right again. And Norvella, you're right again. Two very powerful words. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Thank you.